Okay. Welcome to today's lecture on S.K. George. We are studying Indian Christian theology. I'm so glad some of you are able to present papers. I'm really excited to see some more papers. And by the way, you did a good job. Many of you have done a wonderful job. The Lord has been helping us to progress in our learning. Yesterday we discussed Dalit theology, a theology from a broken-hearted, a theology from the oppressed, harassed, and helpless. They themselves came forward to define their own identity. And today from there, we go a little further, Dalit theology, feminist theology, and all local theologies. But today, since we are discussing about Indian Christian theology, we try to understand what is the Christian's contribution in nation building. And today here is a great, wonderful man, S.K. George, Srampi Corvilla George. His full name was born on 10th March 1900 at Kottayam, Kerala. In 1924, he was sent to Bishop's College for theological training, one of the leading college in those days. After his bachelor's in divinity, he just before his ordination, he confessed his theological doubts. He had so many theological doubts. And then in 1937, he helped in organizing the inter-religious studies students fellowship, which tried to bring together students belonging to different religions for mutual understanding and cooperation. It was like an atom bomb for many mission workers during that time, because during that time, mission was very much fundamental. And people were so much fundamental in their mission praxis, even their association with others. They were very much exclusivists. During that exclusive context, here is a man, S.K. George, introduced inter-religious dialogues. So this inter-religious dialogue was a new phenomenon during that time, and he introduced courageously to organize inter-religious student fellowship initially. And this fellowship is an inclusive fellowship irrespective of religion, caste, color, and the creed. The purpose was to come together and discuss. Theologically, he was strong, but he wanted to bring everybody together in one platform. What influenced him? Let's look at it. He authored the life and teaching of Jesus Christ in 1942. Gandhi's challenge to Christianity in 1947 and the story of the Bible in 1951. He published these books. And he was very much influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. He came under the influence of Gandhi at an imperishable age. Impressionable age when he was a student in Madras Christian College. So, very much influenced by Gandhi, let's look at Gandhi and freedom struggle. So particularly today we are looking at the Christian contribution to nation building and Christians' participation in freedom struggle with their theological background. Gandhi and freedom struggle. It is recorded that an American tourist once said that he came to India to see three things. Three things. One is Himalayas, and second Taj Mahal, and the Mahatma Gandhi. What is the logic behind, Taj Mahal, Mahatma Gandhi, and Himalayas? Yes, of course, when tourists come, they are excited to see Himalayas and Taj Mahal. But this man, he said, even he has come to see Mahatma Gandhi. But this kind of publicity may not be altogether a blessing, because Himalayas and Taj Mahal and again joining Mahatma Gandhi. Before I forget, let me tell you, friends, I extended time 7:30 because many of you are joining at 7:30. I thought, why should we come announce at 7 o'clock and simply wait till 7:30? Today I announced 7:30, and brother Dr. Joseph wanted to leave little early, so he said start at 7:30. So still you are joining. Now what is the time? So please, let's come back to the actual time. When we say the time, yes, come back. Let me know if you want 8 o'clock. We'll start at 8 o'clock. But I said at 7:30. Now again, I hope you understand what I wanted to say. But this kind of publicity may not be altogether a blessing. For Gandhiji, is not an object to be looked at like the Himalayas. Gandhiji is not an object to look at like the Himalayas. But, there is such a craziness because of his contribution. Let's look at Gandhi and freedom struggle. I think the following judgment of Mr. Kingsley Martin, editor of the New Statesman and Nation, will be widely accepted. He said, I regard Gandhi as probably being of all modern leaders, the most faithful interpreter of the philosophy of the Gospels. Interpreter of the philosophy of the Gospels. Now, the hermeneutics, a big subject we all try to understand. But here is a Gandhi, who interpreter of the philosophy of the Gospels. What is the philosophy of the Gospels? Non-violence. Here is a man who interpreted it through his life and actions. Anil is joining. I have heard it said, yes, Gandhi is great, perhaps the greatest person of modern times, but it is the Christ spirit that is working in him. He would have been a greater man if he had been conscious of this and accepted the Lordship of Christ. There is some noise. Anil, can you mute yourself? Okay. And now, but even more significant than this is the method he has evolved for the realization of that kingdom. It is the method of non-violence, of satyagraha. Method of non-violence, of satyagraha. The philosophy of the gospel has been interpreted by Gandhi. Gandhi's method of satyagraha. We are discussing about theology, Indian Christian theology. We may not keep Mahatma Gandhi in the Christian box as a theologian, but he interpreted Christian theology in his life and the mission. It's a great challenge for Christians. Fighting inside the church. We need to come back and sit relaxed mode and interpret the gospel, the philosophy of the gospel. We fail, but there are people here who interpret it. Of course, there may be so many other critical voices about Gandhi, but no, there is some truth about him who has really lived a life of legacy. When I did my master's in religion and philosophy, I had to study Gandhian philosophy. I had to consult many primary, secondary sources, and there is a good truth that we need to appreciate. The Gandhi's method of satyagraha, of non-violent, resistant to evil, non-violent, resistant to evil, seems to supply that technique of action whereby love can resist injustice. Look at here. Love can resist injustice. We have been talking about injustice. Still there is injustice. Forget about injustice outside. Injustice in the church is very much prevailed. Not long ago, right here, right now. What is the theology that we talk about? Love can resist injustice. So this is the theology. We are so much fighting about our doctrine. Right theology, you know, there are so many groups. Keep on fighting about right theology, right theology. Theology need to be interpreted in life. Theology should be practiced. Theology should be, we should be filled with the right theology with a praxis. You know, his understanding and interpretation of the significance of suffering, of the meaning of pain, will be accepted as a message from God to the times of his times. Perhaps a much needed message to a world that has not yet, in spite of 19 centuries of Christianity, forget about 19, 21 centuries of Christianity, understood the way of the cross. You know, still we preach about the way of the cross, discipleship, we talk about the cross, but what is needed is a praxis, not the head knowledge. It may be that when his politics are forgotten, he will chiefly be revered by future ages for the message in which this great principle has attained incarnation in his life. Incarnation in his life. Let me get confirmation. Are you able to hear a lot of voices, the kids' voices outside?
Yeah, those voices are coming, but we can hear you.
If those voices are disturbing, I can take a microphone, keep the headset, then you will not hear. But I think
So.
tuition is over. I think they will go. I think there is somebody is giving a tuition above my apartment. All the kids will go, and then we will not have a noise. And I come back. A great principle has attained incarnation in his life. Not only non-violence. The significance of suffering, of the meaning of pain. He took the cross on him. He was not a power mongering. He had every choice to become somebody. You know, incarnation of the gospel. The gospel, the philosophy of the gospel has been interpreted and lived out. And now coming back, because of that great theology in his life, George could see theology in somebody's life out there in another faith. That challenged him to call for interreligious dialogue. You know, we are talking about George today, S.K. George, very much influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. We looked at a little bit about why he was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, because Gandhi could interpret the theology of the Gospels, and also he could incarnate. That challenged S.K. George. And today, if there is somebody in any other faith with that kind of caliber, we need to respect. We need to respect. We need to learn. And S.K. George was very much influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, S.K. George had the conviction that the hope of the world, unity and human fellowship, lies through inter-religious cooperation. That was his conviction. When there was so much exclusiveness, Anilu not going near to them, particularly in that early 20th century, mission work was very church compound methodology. You don't get engaged with the other faith community. You extract somebody, keep them in your faith, and then brainwash and make them like you, and don't allow them to go back to their own community. During that context, S.K. George has the courage to call for inter-religious cooperation. It's not that mingling, everybody have their own convictions, but working together for the good of the society. Inter-religious movement can eliminate religious conflicts and intolerances. That was his conviction. The spirit of cooperation, which he found among Christians, he wanted to be extended to include the different religions as well. Here is his logic and philosophy. See, today, particularly in this class, Coach Bible School, we belong to different communities, of Christian communities, different Christian communities. Frankly speaking, here is, but Smiles and then Dr. Joseph come from boxing. Still, they are very much active into that flavor of theology. But Francis, like kind of Anglican and CSI, but sometimes he looks like a Pentecostal. And then Brother Hubert, I'm not sure, a kind of brethren or some sort of brethren. But Prakash, again a kind of brethren in between. Srinivas, I'm not sure. Srinivas is also like so I come from again kind of brethren in between. So we belong to different groups, but we are coming together. A Pentecostal, a brethren, a CSI, a Lutheran, all are working together. But we have our own stand, our doctrinal stand. Respecting the doctrinal stand, we come together, the unity. So George is, in a similar manner, every religion people, they will have their own convictions, but let's come together for a kind of dialogue, a kind of walking together. That's what he encourages. He wanted to be extended to include the different religions as well, in a way that the spirit of cooperation which he found among the Christians. And now, in his view, inter-religious movement faces many misunderstandings. Many misunderstandings. The moment you say, tomorrow if I go for a some kind of Hindu and Muslim and Christian all sharing the same table, sitting and discussing, having some kind of meeting, people may keep on posting on social media saying, Dr. Pothana became a cult, and now he became a, already several times people posted. Easily people misunderstand, because the exclusiveness always try to misunderstand. One charge is that it is syncretistic and will but results in adding one or more new fancy religions to the crowded world of religions. Already there are so many religions. This interreligious dialogue may bring another religion. So immediately we pass a judgment. This is another dangerous. George says. The clarification given by George in this context is, he himself says, the interreligious movement does not aim at evolving as single universal religion for all mankind. The purpose of interreligious dialogue is that not forming a single religion. That is the dream of the militant missionary faiths, which would bolt out all other religions. That inter-religiousism stands for is the acceptance of the need and the fact of variety in religious experiences, of diversity in human approach toward the realization of the one eternal reality, which is the common object of religious quest throughout the ages. It admits the limitation of all human understanding of the divine. Even unique revelations are mediated through human channels and is therefore humble and willing to accept light from various sources. It accepts the revelation through the spiritual genuineness of all humankind, and while it does not aim at or believe in evolving a uniformity of creed and conduct. Look at here, uniformity of creed and conduct. It looks forward to a time when the spiritually minded of all religions will unite in the appreciation of all known truths and in welcoming fresh revelations from the unspent deep resources of God. The purpose is not bringing another religion, but learning from one another, because every religion has a quest to know God. Every religion has a quest to know God. So it may be a little difficult for many of you to understand what is interreligion. Why should we simply waste our time? People are dying and God, Jesus is coming soon. It's a waste of discussing all this. Let's go and win a soul. This is all a theology of evangelical theology, which is good. Even I believe it. I don't waste my time. I'm very busy in preaching the gospel. Even this week, I became so busy. Tomorrow, the whole day, I'm teaching. We are busy. But there is a truth that we need to learn from S.K. George. Let's evaluate him. S.K. George saw Gandhi practicing the Christian message of love based on non-violence, and thus supported Gandhi's movement. Frankly speaking, if I would have lived in Gandhi's time, I would have supported Gandhi. There's no wrong in it. Even missionaries could not live out this non-violence. They supported Gandhi's movement. He also recognized that the goodwill of India will lead to goodwill of Indian Christians. This is essential. Today, Christianity don't have a goodwill of others. We need to come back to understand. Even as I was preparing, I realized. I also, along with George, I can say, I also recognize that the goodwill of India will lead to goodwill of Indian Christians. I need to, how can I win the goodwill of India? By participating in the Indian continent, something contributing to India. Along with my winning soul theology and missiology, somehow I need to have a space to contribute to India in some sense. That will lead to goodwill of Indian Christians. Indian Christian will surely have more opportunities in free India rather than enslave India under colonial rule. Enslave in India under colonial rule. His nationalism focused on building of a nation on non-violence that leads to establishment of justice. Look at here today, BJP government, RSS, Bajrang Dal, VHP, all that group talking about nation building, nationalism. And they blame Christians, saying that these Christians don't have a nationalistic spirit. Of course, Christians are very faithful people who have a nationalism in their cognitive mind, because we are all Indians. And somehow George reminds us that we should inculcate that nationalism in our hearts. We should teach our children, and we should have that consciousness of nationalism, my India, and working for India, not simply winning the souls, contributing to the India, nationalism, my country, my land, that spirit we need to inculcate. His nationalism focused on building of a nation on non-violence that leads to establishment of justice. George realized that truth is part of every faith. At the same time, all faiths have its own limitation. Therefore, we need to respect each other's faith and create harmony. There is no wrong theology in it. He is very fundamental, very clearly says every religion has some light, but that is not sufficient. We need to respect and each other's faith and create harmony. We need to respect each other's faith and create religious harmony. This is very essential in this context of violence, and then there is a great need of